here as J.C. Sheldon goes right after Sophie Cunningham.
Well, you can't eject her because you didn't eject Mabry.
Break is here as J.C. Sheldon goes right after Sophie Cunningham.
That's a flagrant.
And Sheldon comes up with the steal. Sheldon goes coast to coast.
The moment that set it all off. She didn't just throw a foul, she threw a message. When Sophie Cunningham hit the court that night, nobody expected what would happen next. In just a few seconds, she went from a role player to a household name. And not because of her scoring. She did something most players wouldn't dare. She stood up, took the hit, and broke the silence on what's really been happening to Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. And when the league said nothing, Sophie said everything. But what really pushed her to that moment? Why now? And what does this say about how far the league will, or won't, go to protect its biggest star? Stick around because this story goes deeper than one shove, one player, or even one team. This is about loyalty, exposure, and a fight that's been brewing for years. If you're tired of watching players get targeted with no consequences, hit that like button. It lets the algorithm know you're watching, and it tells the league fans are paying attention. Let's break this down. It all started during a heated matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun. It wasn't supposed to be anything more than another game on the schedule. But from the very beginning, the energy was different. The tension on the court? Palpable. And all eyes were once again on Caitlin Clark, the most talked about player in the league. But by the third quarter, it was clear this wasn't just going to be a game about points. Clark was poked in the eye by J.C. Sheldon, a move that looked far from accidental. Just when things seemed like they couldn't get more chaotic, Marina Mabry came out of nowhere, shoving Clark from behind like a linebacker. The hit sent her crashing to the floor. And what did the refs do? Practically nothing. A couple of technicals handed out like parking tickets, and that was it. But one person was watching all of this, Sophie Cunningham. She saw the hits. She saw the disrespect. And when Sheldon broke away on a fast break with less than a minute left on the clock, Sophie made her move. She wrapped up Sheldon and took her down, hard. No hesitation, no second guessing, just pure defense mode. She wasn't playing dirty. She was sending a message. You mess with our star. You mess with all of us. The crowd erupted. Fans chanted her name. Sophie! Sophie! Her jersey sold out that night. Social media blew up. But what she did next would make even bigger waves. The turning point. Why Sophie snapped. What made Sophie Cunningham react like that? It wasn't just the eye poke. It wasn't just the shove. It was something deeper. Something that had been simmering for a long time. Sophie didn't lose her temper. She sent a calculated message. A message that said, "We're done being silent." This wasn't just about protecting a teammate. This was about years of watching the league's brightest star get treated like she didn't matter. Cheap shots, dirty plays, a pattern of targeted physicality that no one seemed willing to stop. Sophie had seen enough. In her post-game interview, Sophie said something that hit hard. It was a build-up for a couple years now of them just not protecting the star player of the WNBA. That's not just about one team or one game. That's a direct accusation aimed at the league's entire officiating system. Cunningham wasn't angry. She was deliberate. She waited until the game was nearly over. She didn't retaliate during the chaos or in the heat of the moment. She picked her spot. She wrapped Sheldon up on a garbage time play with the outcome already sealed. The move? It was more than physical. It was symbolic. She wasn't out of control. She was completely in control. The interview that changed everything. After the dust settled, Cunningham finally spoke. No press conference spin, no half apologies, just raw truth. And what she said flipped the entire conversation. She didn't backtrack. She didn't deflect. She owned it. She said she wasn't focused on extracurriculars. She was focused on execution, on team schemes and on protecting her people. She made it clear this wasn't personal, it was professional, and it was necessary. Her most viral line, "At the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. I'm a team player." That one sentence exploded across social media. Memes, tweets, TikToks, it was everywhere. Suddenly, Sophie Cunningham wasn't just a role player on the Fever. She was Clark's enforcer. Clark's protector. The teammate who wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty. And fans loved her for it. Her jersey sold out overnight. Her TikTok following jumped from under 400,000 to over 1.2 million. Her Instagram? Same story. Hundreds of thousands of new followers in days. Why? Because people aren't just drawn to highlight reels. They're drawn to character, loyalty, authenticity, and Sophie Cunningham gave them all three. The system that failed Clark. This wasn't Sophie's story alone. It was also about Caitlin Clark and what she's been forced to endure. Ever since Clark entered the league, she's been a target. Physical play is one thing, but this has gone far beyond that. She's been poked, elbowed, shoved, tripped. Plays that would draw instant ejections in the NBA are met with shrugs in the WNBA. And when it happens to Clark, the silence is louder than the whistle. Refs hand out technical fouls like they're doing favors. Flagrant fouls get overlooked, and all the while, the league's biggest name takes hit after hit. Cunningham called this out directly, not with vague language, but with intent. She didn't say it was unfair. She said it was a pattern. And the league's response? Fines. No suspensions. Just a quiet sweep under the rug. But Cunningham's interview wouldn't let them hide. She lit a flare and dropped it right on top of the league's silence. What she exposed wasn't just a bad game. It was a broken system. And now, everyone's watching. The fallout. Fans, merch, and momentum. The moment Sophie Cunningham took that foul, the court wasn't the only thing that erupted. The internet did too. Within hours, Cunningham's jersey was gone. Completely sold out. Fever merchandise skyrocketed. TikTok lit up with highlight edits, memes, and commentary. Cunningham's follower count tripled. Tweets called her Clark's bodyguard. Others branded her the enforcer. And not sarcastically, with pride. The media tried to label her reckless, but fans saw something else. They saw someone willing to take heat to do the right thing. Someone unafraid to step in when it mattered most. Even Caitlin Clark herself backed her up. She said she'd pay Sophie's fine. That's not a teammate being polite. That's mutual respect. That's solidarity. And the Fever fan base? They went all in. Indiana's team store had to temporarily limit online orders because of demand. Front Office Sports reported over 1,000 merch orders per night. That's not just hype, that's proof of impact. If you believe loyalty like this matters in sports, drop a comment. The people running the league need to see that fans care about this. The double standard. No one talks about. Now let's get real about something that's been bothering a lot of people, but barely anyone is saying out loud. If this had happened in the NBA, the response would have been completely different. Imagine someone shoving Steph Curry to the ground from behind, or elbowing LeBron in the face. The retaliation would have come instantly. No one would blink twice. Everyone would nod and say, "That's just protecting the star." But this is the WNBA. And suddenly, the same reaction is called dirty, aggressive, over the line. Why? The answer's uncomfortable, but undeniable. There's a double standard in how we treat female athletes. When men get physical to defend their teammates, it's seen as toughness. When women do it, it's called a problem. That's not just unfair, it's dangerous. Because it discourages players from doing the one thing every great team needs, standing up for each other. Sophie Cunningham didn't lose her cool. She kept it. She calculated her timing, made her point, and took her consequence. That's not being reckless. That's being strategic. But somehow, the headlines tried to make her the villain. and she didn't flinch. Leadership isn't always pretty. Here's what separates Sophie Cunningham from a lot of players. She understands that leadership isn't always about being liked. It's about doing what needs to be done, even if it gets messy. She didn't go out there looking for a fight. She didn't throw a tantrum. She waited, watched, and chose her moment. Not in the first quarter, not in the middle of the game, in the final seconds when her message would land the hardest. And here's what's even more telling. Cunningham is no rookie. She's a veteran, a team glue player, someone who balances personalities, keeps morale steady, and keeps teammates grounded. She's been described as the tweener, not too old, not too young, just right in the middle, holding it all together. So when she acts, you better believe it's intentional. Teams throughout history have always had players like her. The Lakers had guys to back up Kobe. The Bulls had them for Jordan. The Warriors still have them for Steph. You need a protector, someone who tells opponents, "You touch our star, you deal with me." Cunningham stepped into that role without hesitation. And when the league didn't protect Clark, she did. That's leadership. That's respect. That's what it looks like when someone chooses loyalty over optics. What this means for the WNBA. Sophie Cunningham didn't just take down one player. She exposed a problem that's been hiding in plain sight for years. Caitlin Clark isn't just a star. She's the face of the WNBA's future. She brings fans, headlines, sponsors, and energy into the league. But she's also been left vulnerable, game after game, while the officials just look the other way. That's not just a safety issue, that's a business issue. Because when casual fans tune in to watch Caitlin Clark and they see her getting shoved, poked, and dropped with no accountability, they stop watching. When they see the league's brightest star targeted without protection, it sends one message: we don't protect our own. Sophie Cunningham's action sent a different message. She made it clear: if the refs won't step up, the team will. She showed the rest of the WNBA what it looks like when you refuse to stay silent, when you put your teammates first, and when you treat the league's top player like she actually matters. And it worked. Fans responded, sponsors noticed, the media shifted the narrative, because Cunningham's move wasn't just a foul, it was a wake-up call. Sometimes you have to be the villain to do what's right. Sophie Cunningham didn't come out of that game with a win. She came out with a fine, an ejection, and a media storm. But ask any Fever fan, and they'll tell you it was worth it. She showed what real leadership looks like. Not the kind that hides behind cameras and gives safe interviews. The kind that says, "You don't mess with my teammate. You don't mess with our team." Cunningham wasn't reckless. She was ready to put her reputation on the line to do what nobody else would. Ready to be the bad guy if it meant protecting what mattered. And she's not alone anymore. The response from the crowd, the spike in jersey sales, the fans flooding her socials. Those aren't the reactions to someone who went too far. That's what happens when people recognize something real in the game. Because fans don't just follow stats, they follow character. And Sophie Cunningham just showed the whole league what character looks like when the lights are brightest. So what's your take? Did she cross the line, or did she do exactly what needed to be done? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more breakdowns like this, raw, honest, no fluff, make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next.